Okay guys, I am making a video on covert narcissism. This one is going to be even somewhat focused on the female covert narcissist, although really both the male and female are very similar. There's just a few differences. I'm gonna make more videos on the female covert narcissist as well. I'm doing a little bit deeper dive in the research, but what you need to know about them is these are the stealthy narcissists. They are the wolves in sheep's clothing. You'll know they discard you when they are done with you, and usually they will never discard you unless they have already replaced you with someone else. They are considered sort of the shy narcissists. These can tend to be very quiet people. They have deep feelings of unworthiness and shame and very sort of low self-esteem. But unlike the overt narcissists that sort of present this manufactured mask of, confidence, the covert narcissists really retreats into their own little world, and in their inner world it's all about pathological fantasies. They're living in a fantasy world. These are people that live up in their heads. They tend to be very quiet people. They tend to be very passive aggressive. People who think that when they're referring to them, they will often say that they are very nice. They appear to be very nice, even kind and altruistic. They are always playing the victim. They portray themselves as being wronged. They never take personal responsibility. They rarely apologize. They're very conniving and stealthy. Typically these, sort of a little bit of digressing a little bit is sort of how these covert narcissists can be created. And really it's typically either that they were either smothered and spoiled, or there was just not enough emotional connection. So with the emotional connection, maybe they didn't get enough eye contact or skin contact. Their parent was emotionally detached. They may have had their food and shelter needs met, but like not that warmth, that emotional connection, that, sort of connectedness. Or sometimes they are smothered by a caregiver and spoiled. The caregiver is very needy and makes the child the perfect little dolly, or to relieve their own anxiety. Or they have that, that child needs to replace the spouse because maybe their spouse isn't giving them enough attention, or they don't have a good relationship with the spouse, so they use the child as sort of a way to replace that, and the child is sort of an extension of them, where the child is just there to make the parent look good. That's sort of more of the smothering. Of course, this can be created from all sorts of different families. I mean, the caregiver could be depressed, they could be grieving, so they can't really bond or connect with their child. Whatever's happening here, whatever family structure, what that's creating in the child is a narcissistic injury. Covert narcissists are sort of considered like the shy narcissist, the vulnerable narcissist, the stealthy narcissist. And they're also been referred to sometimes as the emotional parasite. They seem nice. They seem even benign. They can be very vulnerable. They can be very shy. They can almost seem very sweet. It's kind of hard to put your finger on, what it is, right? But they seem almost like dolls or robots. And, you're like, something's not quite right, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Just notice a red flag is if you're getting this weird feeling around them, that they're sort of empty and obtuse and there's something sort of vacant. That is a red flag. But the red flags with these coverts are very, very hard to detect. So, make no mistake, these people are predators, just like the overt narcissists. It's just very, very hard to sort of detect them. So if you were duped by one of these people, don't feel too bad, because these people are masters of reeling people in with their shyness and their vulnerability. They can tend to be as, spouses, they can tend to, or partners, they will act like they're doing everything for you. They're taking care of you. They're sacrificing so much. That's what they will tell everyone in their smear campaign. So people have a very inaccurate portrayal of what you're actually doing in the relationship. You could be, totally contributing. You could be working at being a great partner. You could be trying to communicate. You could be trying to encourage them to go to counseling with you. You could be doing all these things, but behind your back, they're acting like they're such the martyr and look at what they're sacrificing for this, selfish, greedy person. And really, they are pathological takers. They are pathologically self-interested. So if you're a codependent and you feel that you need to give in order to be loved, or you need to work hard or be a doer or perform in order to be loved, you are kibble. You are delicious catnip for a pathological taker. You could be a target for them because they just absolutely, these people are vampires. They will suck you dry, whether that means your hard work, your emotional energy, your time, your everything. They will suck you dry. And they tend to be, with the female or the male, they don't really like to do a lot of housework. They don't really like to do a lot of, the grocery shopping and the cooking or the cleaning. So you may often see in these relationships that they are getting with a giver and just expecting that person to just, do all these things for them. Covert narcissists can tend to be very stubborn, and they rarely, if ever, apologize. And if they do apologize, it is not sincere. And they only would do it if there's a reason, something they're going to get out of it. They never give money unless, and then they will absolutely give money if it is about control. If they have a lot of money and they can use it to control you and shame you and make you feel dependent on them, then absolutely they will use money for that. But remember, they're never giving money freely. It is always tit for tat. They have a tally in their minds of what they've done for you. And it's very uneven. They're incredibly hypocritical. You might find yourself in a relationship with them apologizing for things that you didn't even do, and you're not even sure how it happened that way. You could go to them with a legitimate issue and then it'll get turned around on you. You will end up feeling guilty for something you didn't even do. They're masters at manipulation. And they are going to use you. They are users. People to them are objects. They are going to use you for money, attention, time, supply, sex, anything. And the moment that you are empty, that they have extracted whatever they're getting out of you, and you are like an empty shell of a person, the moment that they have sucked you dry, they will discard you. So the moment you stop giving them money, work, emotional energy, they're going to throw you out the window like a piece of trash. And that is because, my dears, they do not bond. You're bonding, they're not. They don't bond with their partners. They don't bond with their friends. They don't bond with their children. These people do not emotionally bond with other people. So there's no glue holding them together. The only reason they stay with somebody is for what they're getting from that person, materialistic, or maybe that person makes them look good at work, or that person's giving them adulation and worshiping them. So they won't make you feel guilty when things are not your fault. So this is really dangerous for codependents, because codependents tend to take on more than their fair share. Codependents are notoriously unclear on what's their part and what's somebody else's part. So if you have those tendencies, I think it's very important that you get clear on not taking responsibility for things that are not yours to take responsibility for. These covert narcissists are entirely self-centered. They are literally the center of their own universe. This may be very hidden. It may be very internal in their minds, but you'll notice this by their lack of feeding relationships, how they're not reciprocal. They're very, sort of stingy with their time, with their money, with their energy. And remember, they often live in their own heads in these grandiose fantasies. They can be very charming and hypnotic. These people are expert liars. If you're with a female narcissist, covert narcissist, either male or female, plan on being you're going to be master manipulated. There's going to be some master manipulation going on. It is literally like their career. This is what they live for. And they're going to size you up. And when they first meet you, they're going to size you up. They're going to use flattery. They're going to use love bombing. They're going to use manipulation. And the whole time they're flattering the heck out of you, what they're doing is they are figuring you out. They're figuring out your weaknesses and they are figuring out your vulnerabilities so that they can later exploit, because they operate in the 3 E's, just like overt narcissists, just like, it's the entitlement, it's the low empathy, and so the empathy impairment, the entitlement, and the exploitation. These are exploiters. They have a hypersensitivity to criticism. They absolutely cannot take any criticism, whether it's perceived or real. They have this incredible hypersensitivity. They have, and this is very, very key, and this is why they can discard the way they do. They have an inability to form intimate relationships. So they cannot do intimacy. So they are unable to connect. Something to notice early on in the relationship is the shallow quality of the relationship. Is it surface? Is it shallow? And that could be for longtime friends. That could be for their interactions with their children or their partner or their spouse or their girlfriend or their boyfriend. The shallow quality of the relationship is something to very much hone in on. They tend to, once they've got you, they don't tend to engage unless there's something in it for them. They have an inability to feel genuine remorse. They blame others for their problems. They cannot take personal responsibility. They project their emotions onto other people. Whatever a covert narcissist is accusing you of, that's probably what they're guilty of. If they're telling you that you're cheating, they're cheating. If they are accusing you of having black and white thinking, that's because they have black and white thinking. Whatever they're putting onto you, that is what they're probably doing, because they are masters at projection and deflection. Sometimes these people have actually very high IQs. They can be really, really smart. They tend to be the ones that are more behind the scenes. They can often be in sort of altruistic careers, like, as sometimes they're therapists or they're priests, or they can be like engineers or working on computers. They're much more behind the scenes. These are not your actors and your musicians that are the overt narcissists that are out there in front of everyone. These are the people that are sort of in the, they're stealth, they're covert. These people can be highly materialistic. Now, sometimes it will manifest in looking perfect and perfect clothes, perfect cars, perfect everything. Other times with the coverts, it's going to be in the form of almost ostentatiously humble in their materialism, but they're hoarders. They hoard money, and they're always, they're miserly about money. They're counting every penny, and they're very, very, very tit for tat. They always, there's a tally in their head of how much you gave and how much they gave. And because they're totally hypocritical and they're so self-centered, they can't actually take into account what you gave. So really, in their minds, they give and give and give and give, and you're just, you're nothing. So they tend to, of course, they lack empathy. They can be actually, they can look really kind, but this is not who they really are. Like on the surface, these might be the people that other people like, yeah, she's such a nice lady, or, oh, he's such a nice, he's such a nice man. They're so nice. Like you will hear that about these covert narcissists. Very different than the overt, where you can see them coming and they're very grandiose and they tend to be sort of big egos. But this is not who they really are. These are not kind people, because kind people do not exploit. They do not treat people like this. They do not discard. They don't have, no empathy. They, kind people have remorse and empathy and warmth and a heart. These people are, cold little robots. They operate in triangulation. If you have created a narcissistic injury, or if you have exposed them, that's the worst thing you can do, exposing them, especially the coverts, because they are working very hard at keeping their, everything on the down low. They want to present, if this is like a a therapist that's a covert narcissist, like they want to present that they are a saint, or, a priest that's a covert narcissist, like they're a saint. They're the pillar of the community. They are the altruistic. They're so kind. Look at how nice they are. Look at how they've taken on this, poor, illegitimate child or whatever, right? So they're all about that mask. They're all about presenting to be such nice people. But if you expose them, be prepared, because these are the most vindictive people you will ever meet. They will get you, and be very careful, because they're going to get revenge one way or the other. They do not have boundaries, and they do not respect your boundaries. That's why it is so important, if you're a codependent or if you're an empath and you're a giver, that you learn healthy boundaries, because the way to get rid of these people and the way to deal with these people is strong boundaries, and notice the red flags and get the heck out of there early on. Do not try to bond with these people, because if you do, it's not reciprocal. Maybe you think it is, but it's not. It's a one-sided bond. They flaunt their vulnerability and shyness. They flatter you. They're sizing you up. They are trying to learn your vulnerabilities so that they can suck you dry. Remember, they're very shame-based. They have low self-esteem, and sometimes they latch onto people who are very well-loved or very outgoing. You can see, you can't always see them coming, because again, they're very stealthy. These are the type that can be married to you and literally dating other people, planning on marrying the other people while they're married to you. They're working on their next source of supply or their next victim. They claim to be very independent people, like they don't need anyone, but they're actually rarely ever single. They always have overlap. They must have supply at all times, and they cannot be alone. They're seriously, they're very dependent, although they act otherwise. You might find with the covert narcissist that there's like a false humility. Sometimes they're even going to put themselves down, and they're going to bait you into giving them compliments. And again, like I mentioned, they're never single. They always have, multiple, they're always replacing the old source of supply with a new source of supply. Internally, it's important to note that these people are injured. This is a narcissistic injury. These people are wounded. And I'm not saying that so that you will have compassion and take them on as your project, because you will not be able to change them. But these are the people that can have they can be married to 3 different people. They can have multiple, lives, multiple wives, multiple husbands. These are the people that can actually pull that sort of thing off, double and triple lives. They they are pathologically selfish. They tend to be very passive aggressive. And these are the misunderstood special people, okay? These are, the ones that in their minds, they think that they're one of a kind. They're so smart. No one understands them. They're so special, and it takes very, very special people to understand them, because they're smarter than everyone. They're just geniuses, don't you know? They tend to have, if you look at their face, they tend to also have sort of a flat affect. You might not see much emotional expression. You might not see much expressions of joy or happiness or sadness. It's just sort of a flat affect. Again, back to that emptiness, these people tend to be very empty. There's something you can't quite put your finger on, but it's like a vacancy. It's an emptiness. It's a coldness. They tend to be very obtuse. When they're communicating, they use a lot of word salad communication. They can be very demeaning. They can be very devaluing. They tend to be very disconnected, living in their own world, very superior. They can be quite smug. They must be better than you. This can be very subtle. Remember, they're always the victim. They're very cunning. They're very manipulative. And if you are a codependent, an empath, or a psychologist, you're probably going to want to try to fix them. And I'm, again, going to encourage you, you can't fix them. So the most important thing is, as soon as you see or sense these red flags, get out of the relationship before you bond, because again, this is a one-sided bond. They're not real. They're sending a mask. It's a false self. It's not a real relationship. So if you can, they treat people as objects. So if you can help them at work, if you can advance them at work, make them look good, if you can help them buy a house, if you can give them money, if you give them love, validation, free food, supply, if you're really good looking, or if you're really altruistic, that, you know, if you can be their house cleaner, their cook, their maid, whatever, people are objects to them. You are there for what you provide. They do not give a shit about you as a human being. They're not even curious about your internal life, your feelings, or who you are. They just don't care. You're just an object, you're a wash machine, you're a Maytag, and the new source of supply, that person, just an object. They're a Maytag, they're, you know, whatever, they're a whirlpool. Children are also sources of supply to these narcissists. So as soon as you are on to them, if you start exposing these people for who they are, if you start questioning their mask or questioning and start to be on to these people, and you start sensing that, you know, figuring out that they have a secret life, a double life, a pornography addiction, or a, secret substance addiction, or they're cheating on you, it's been a long-term thing, you had no idea. You know, if that's happening and you start to suspect that this person is, you know, narcissistic or sociopathic, they'll definitely discard you then, because they are terrified of anyone exposing, you know, ripping off their mask and exposing the true darkness of who they are behind, because really it's like they're a blank. And they don't want anyone to know that they're not this nice girl or nice guy that they present. And again, this is the important thing to know. I'm going to reiterate this a lot. These people do not bond. So if you want a real relationship, you cannot have one with these people. They do not bond with their children. They do not bond with their friends. They do not bond with their spouse. They do not bond. They're incapable of emotional intimacy and reciprocity. So they treat people like single serving packets. They may claim that they want you to succeed, and they may even do all these things that are performative to make it look like they're having you succeed, but actually they envy and hate you for succeeding. If you outshine them, they hate you. They're going to undermine you, and they're very, very envious. Whatever you do, do not play their game. You are never going to beat them at their manipulation. This is what they do. They are master manipulators. And if you're a normal person or empath or codependent, you're no match for that. Your soul doesn't even let you manipulate people like that, because you're just not that way. You can't even fathom how to do that. You don't treat people that way. And basically, you know, they have a PhD in manipulation. So, you know, it's not something you would want to do even if you could do it. So the best thing to do, like Ross Rosenberg talks about, is like, if you figure out that you're with a covert narcissist, you want to get away quietly, right? You know, confronting or exposing them can be a big mistake, because they are going to get you. They're very, very vindictive. They will plan it. They will stalk you for years. These are people that do not bond. They're not capable of emotional reciprocity. And although they can put on, you know, this fake mask and this facade of that for their new source of supply, ultimately they are not bonding, and they are going to do this relationship pattern throughout their lives. Idealization, they have the person on the pedestal, devaluation, and discard. And they are going to do that over and over and over again, like Groundhog Day, unless they get so old that people are just like onto them and don't even want to be with them. And then these people, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of them die alone. So, you know, that's a little bit about the covert narcissist. And I tried to emphasize a little bit more on what I've read about the female covert narcissist, but there's, you know, just really a lot of overlap. I'm not sure there's much difference, but I will do more videos when I've done a little bit more research on the female. Thanks so much, and I hope you guys are having a great, thriving day. Bye-bye.